新消息来了，兄弟们！
Here's the latest news, guys. The Chinese state media, the Beijing News, has confirmed that car inventory has surged to over 3 million units nationwide, hitting a new high in the last 2 years. Car manufacturers' warehouses are literally turning into parking lots. So, what's the key takeaway? Every major website is offering cars at half price. Look at this. Can you see it? Now, a large number of new cars are being packaged and sold as used cars. From January to April, car sales were booming, and all the cars that needed to be sold were sold. July and August are the traditional off-season, and inventory pressure is maxed out. So car makers have two ways to deal with this. One, throw huge subsidies at it, and two, slash prices. Based on all this information, if you don't need to buy a car right now, hold off. If you do buy, you're basically just taking over someone else's problem. Car prices are currently at about 50% off the listing price.
兄弟们，最新的数据出来了。
The latest data is out, and the car industry is going crazy. There are 3.3 million cars in inventory. What does that number mean? It's like stuffing the entire population of Shenzhen into these cars, and still having over 500,000 seats left. The inventory turnover has skyrocketed to 57 days, far beyond the healthy level. So what's the healthy level? Normally, it should be no more than 36 days, but now it's surged to 57 days, which is clear inventory congestion. Why is this happening? It's overproduction.
On July 31st, the China Automobile Circulation Association released its latest Dealer Inventory Warning Index. According to the data, the index reached 57.2% in July 2025, up by 0.6% points from June. This figure remains above the 50% threshold, signaling that the pressure in the car market is increasing. Fewer people are buying cars and the market isn't as active as it used to be. As a result, dealers are facing mounting inventory pressure. August is traditionally a slow month for the auto industry, and the current trend suggests that consumers' hesitation is only growing. Many dealers have reported that July's market activity was noticeably weaker than in June. About 48% of dealers said that overall market had declined, with most seeing a drop of over 5%. If this trend continues, it's likely that August will offer little improvement. As the car market faces challenges, one observer pointed out that after the Spring Festival, car makers ramped up production and wholesale numbers soared. However, consumers' purchasing power hasn't kept pace. The intense promotions at the start of the year have already drained many consumers' willingness to buy, and now the market's momentum has noticeably slowed. Adding to the strain is a rapid expansion of electric vehicles, EVs, which is squeezing the survival space of traditional car manufacturers. The observer also noticed that with the arrival of the traditional off-season for cars and rising inventory cost, each car now carries a monthly storage fee of 300 to 500 yuan. Dealers and car makers are finding it increasingly difficult to hold on. Price cuts and inventory clearance have become almost the only way forward. Even top brands like BYD haven't met their sales target for the first half of the year, while companies like Geely, Chang'an, and Great Wall face even greater pressure. Even Tesla has rolled out discounts in various regions, and dealers are offering promotions like zero down payment, zero interest, financial subsidies, and trade-in discounts. With the government's trade-in for new policy, the actual prices of cars are approaching their lowest level of the year. But behind the price cuts lies a deeper crisis. Data reveals that in 2024, the average price of a car in the industry dropped by 9%, and profit margins have fallen below 3%. Some manufacturers are now in a position where they're losing money on every car sold. Adding to the concern, the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology has proposed new regulations in July that would ban the resale of new cars within 6 months of registration. The move targets the growing issue of zero-mileage used cars. Zero-mileage used cars appear to be second-hand, but they are actually new cars that are registered and immediately resold with almost no mileage. This practice is widespread among the manufacturers trying to boost sales and dealers working to clear inventory. Manufacturers often register new cars, then label them as sold, artificially inflating sale figures and sometimes using this tactic to claim government subsidies. Dealers under pressure to meet sales targets or earn rebates are forced to buy back cars from the manufacturers and resell them at a discount as used cars. The Ministry of Industry and Information Technology says this practice distorts market data, making it difficult for the government to accurately assess consumer demand and inventory levels. This in turn leads to misjudgment about the market and disrupts policy making. At first glance, this new regulation seems like a measure to clean up the market. However, it could end up causing even bigger problems. Although the policy is still in the consultation phase, once it's implemented, it will directly impact dealers' ability to sell test cars, display vehicles, and leftover inventory, so-called discounted like new cars. These cars, which are affordably priced and still in good condition, have been crucial for cleaning out inventory and driving sales. They are also popular among cost-conscious buyers. But once the new regulation takes effect, reselling these cars won't be as easy. They'll lose their flexibility and ability to quickly generate cash. As a result, a large number of these budget-friendly cars could disappear from the market. For consumers, this means fewer affordable options and less room for negotiation. For dealers, the challenge of cleaning out inventory will become even harder, and they will face greater pressures from increased financial strains and unsold stock. The strategy that once helped attract customers and boost sales were effectively shut down. In short, this new regulation could be the final straw for smaller dealerships and weaker car manufacturers. Many in the industry now believe that the period from July to September will be the final window for manufacturers to clear out inventory and lower prices. Over the next 30 days, car prices may see another sharp decline. More people now believe that this isn't just a typical promotion battle. It's a major industry shakeup that could determine the survival of car manufacturers. In the next 3 years, at least half of these companies could be driven out of the market. The real challenge has only just begun. As the competition in the car market intensifies, car makers are coming up with new strategies that seems eerily similar to the tactics used by Evergrande before its collapse, sparking even more concerns among the public. One user, Liao Liu EVs, commented,
真的是开眼界了。
This is really eye-opening. Who knew buying a car could be like this? Let's take a look at this video. I've heard of pre-sold homes, but I've never heard of pre-sold cars. I paid in full and now I have to wait 6 months for the car to be made before I can pick it up. The after-sales service told me that I must pay within 7 days or my order will be considered abandoned. I ordered a Xiaomi YU7 car. I had to pay the full deposit up front and now I'm stuck waiting for weeks just to pick up the car. I've paid the money, but I haven't seen the car yet. This is worse than trading futures. I remember the last time this kind of thing happened, it was with Xu Jiayin from Evergrande Real Estate.
Another commenter, Rapid Charging, shared his thoughts.
期房把我们坑惨了，现在汽车又来了。
We were burned by pre-sold homes before, and now pre-sold cars are here. I'm not targeting any specific brand, but we really need to ask ourselves, should we keep tolerating this model? Should we resist it? Many people may have already forgotten the painful lesson from the pre-sold home situation. Now, if we compare pre-sold homes with pre-sold cars, you'll realize that the problems in the car industry might be just as serious as those in real estate.
He pointed out that the main issue with pre-sale homes was developers facing cash flow problems, causing projects to stall. As a result, people paid their homes they never received, and in some cases, they lost everything. The car industry faces a similar situation. Consumers make advance payments, but the car hasn't even been produced yet. If the car maker encounters financial troubles or delays, the payment is already spent and the car remains out of reach. He also noted a common problem in real estate. The product doesn't match the promise. The model home looks great, but the final product is often poorly built. This is similar in the car industry. People order cars based on flashy promotions and full feature specs, only to find that the car that arrives is stripped down. This misleading advertising and deceptive practices are essentially traps for consumers. Another issue is that in real estate, the long gap between signing a contract and moving in can lead to a sharp drop in property values, causing asset depreciation. In some cases, the loan amount may even exceed the property's value. A similar scenario is playing out in the car market. By the time the car is delivered, the price of a nearly new, zero-mileage used car may already be lower than that of a new one, and it could be available for immediate delivery. This price disparity creates an unfair situation for consumers. Meanwhile, real estate contracts often come with numerous clauses that favor the seller, with traps that makes it difficult for consumers to fight for their rights. Issues like delayed deliveries, poor quality, and vague compensation terms are common. In the end, consumers are left to fight for their rights, often through protest. Similarly, car pre-sale contracts come with their own set of problems. When dispute arises, consumers face high cost and complicated legal procedures to defend their rights. Car manufacturers often take an uncooperative stance and try to avoid responsibility. In response to this, another commenter pointed out that this is just the surface level strategy for manufacturers to recover cost, with even more tricks waiting to trap car buyers one step at a time. Another commenter noted,
车还没生产出来，已经开始退尾款了。
I have a bold idea. What if car makers release a completely new model during the waiting period for pre-sale cars, and then convince customers who have already paid a deposit to transfer it to the new model? It would be a never-ending cycle, always waiting for the next best car. In this way, the old models would never have to go into mass production. And what if someone doesn't want to transfer their deposit? Simple. Aren't they already pressuring people to pay the balance? If they don't, just consider it as voluntarily giving up. That 5,000 yuan deposit would just be a purchase of a pre-owner identity, always holding on to the hope that something good is coming. As for those who can't wait and want to take delivery, they can go left, straight to the zero-mileage used car market, where there's inventory, lower prices, and they can drive away immediately.
The commenter remarks actually highlights a very serious issue. If the pre-sold cars plus endless deposit cycles model is adopted and extended, it could push China's car market into a dangerous territory. Car manufacturers would shift their focus from delivering products to managing consumer expectations. Instead of relying on technology and quality for profits, the industry might turn to telling stories and promising the impossible to raise funds. This would mean the entire industry could transition from being product-driven to finance-driven, following a path similar to what happened in the real estate sector. When cars are treated as financial products and consumers' trust and deposits become cash-out tools, the collapse of consumer confidence could cause the entire industry to implode. First, car buyers would become victims, and buying a car could become a gamble. Consumers would pay cash deposits, but instead of receiving their cars, they'd face constant delivery delays, downgraded configurations, and escalating prices. Next, the supply chain would suffer. Suppliers would be owed money, and dealers would struggle with liquidity, putting the entire industry under financial strain. The collapse in employment and investment confidence would follow. EVs are one of the few bright spots in China's economy, and if the bubble burst, it could shake the job market and affect many related industries. Ultimately, like the housing market, this could severely impact the economy. If the car market becomes a pre-sold car market with no actual deliveries and no technological progress, the result will only be the collapse of consumer confidence and the destruction of industry credibility. Customers might think to themselves, isn't this exactly the Evergrande model, now playing out under a different name? Back in May, chairman of Great Wall Motors, Wei Jianjun, remarked,
我们现在有些主机厂在追求市值。
Now, some car manufacturers are so focused on boosting their market value and stock prices that they're going all out on this. I've even called for a full audit of all the major car manufacturers in our industry, and Great Wall is willing to pay for that audit. The Evergrande of the car industry already exists. It just hasn't exploded yet.
Given the current situation, Wei Jianjun comment about the Evergrande of the car industry may not be an exaggeration. The new policy could push the already fragile market even closer to the edge. Commenter Rige responded by saying, although these words sound alarming, we should consider who will be the next Evergrande. Some are guessing it might be Horizon Auto, but I'll tell you it's not. It's not big enough to be the Evergrande of car industry. It's more like a small bubble company like OFO. Others mention certain regions or brands, but let's not speculate just yet. First, let's figure out how Evergrande really collapsed. Rieger further explained, the collapse of Evergrande was essentially a fake boom built on massive debt. They were desperately raising funds while expanding rapidly, relying on the strategy of using new debt to pay off old debt. It was essentially playing the shell game. Real estate is a capital-heavy industry. Products don't turn over quickly like fast-moving consumer goods. It depends on consumer purchasing power and the overall environment. Once a market saturates and consumer power drops, a collapse is inevitable. This is nearly identical to the current situation in the electric vehicle industry. Think about it. How many Chinese car manufacturers are already stuck in high debt and low cash flow? Even worse, they lack core technology. Batteries, motors, and controllers are all sourced from external suppliers, which not only raises cost, but also leaves them unable to pass the blame if something goes wrong. As a result, many car manufacturers are defaulting on payments to suppliers, forcing them to cut corners and reduce cost. The end result? Lower vehicle quality, increased safety risk, and unfortunately, consumer bears the consequences. As Wei Jianjun said, what kind of a car can still guarantee quality after a 10,000 yuan price cut? Deep down, we all know the answer. Regarding Wei Jianjun's statement, some car manufacturers were quick to deny the comparison. General Manager of Brand and Public Relations at BYD, Li Yuanfei, quickly issued a statement firmly denying that BYD is being labeled as Evergrande of the car industry. He stressed that the financial situation of China's mainstream car manufacturers is generally stronger than their overseas counterparts and should not be prematurely written off. He also pointed out that the ideal of seeing the death knell for China's electric vehicle is neither objective nor responsible. BYD has already reported the matter to the relevant authorities and stated that they will take legal actions against those spreading malicious rumors. However, some commenters quickly rebutted.
某恒大式车企出来辟谣。
One car company with an Evergrande-style approach came out to deny the rumors, saying, Toyota, Volkswagen, and even Apple have a higher debt ratio than us. Why are we being accused of being at risk? It sounded all righteous, but then they said, our 70% debt ratio is just on paper. As soon as that was said, it was like burning paper at the graveyard to foot a ghost. The real issue isn't in the numbers on paper. It's where they're hiding the bigger risks. The car company isn't just about building cars. It also has its own finance company that specializes in acceptance bills. What's that? It means when suppliers deliver goods and payment is due, they don't pay. Instead, they give you an acceptance bill and tell you to go to their finance company to cash it in 6 months later.
This commenter pointed out that although it might seem like a simple transaction where everything is cleared up with a bill, the reality is that a large portion of the payable amount is essentially shifted to the financial company's books, making the car company's financial report appear much cleaner and more attractive. But this money is still fundamentally owed because of the car manufacturing process. Why shouldn't it count as part of the car manufacturer's debt? What's even more problematic is that suppliers holding this bill won't receive any cash within 6 months. They are left to cover the cost themselves, taking on more pressure, borrowing money, and possibly incurring losses. Meanwhile, the car makers continue to stretch its finances by delaying payments to suppliers and pushing inventory upstream, barely managing to keep operations running. He concluded by stating, in simple terms, this is classic financial manipulation and risk shifting. If these hidden debts were properly accounted for, the company would already be in a losing money situation. So it's not that the people are being overly negative, it's that the company has led itself into a dangerous place. Capital can hide the truth temporarily, but it will eventually have to be repaid, either when the cash flow collapses or when the company's credit completely fails. What's even more concerning is that the combination of China's domestic pre-sold car traps and overseas price wars won't just fail to reverse the decline of Chinese car makers, but could also create double pressure on China's economy and the car industry from both inside and outside the country. At first glance, Chinese cars appear to be making major strides in emerging markets like Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and South America, quickly boosting sales with low prices. It seems like a big win. But at a closer look, this growth is not based on real consumer demand, brand strength, or technological advantages. Instead, it's driven by China's severe overcapacity and the desperation of car makers to survive, resulting in a low-price inventory and clearance strategy. This export growth may seem impressive, but it's mostly supported by subsidies, tax breaks, and bank credit. In just an extension of the outdated investment-driven model used by local governments. With weak domestic demand and high inventory, car makers have no choice but to sell at a loss just to stay afloat, depleting their own resources in the process. The price wars and export competition are also distorting the global market, driving companies into a dangerous cycle where the more they sell, the bigger the losses. If overseas markets face anti-subsidy investigations, higher tariffs, currency fluctuations, or tighter financial conditions, and export channels are blocked while domestic demand remain weak, a large-scale wave of bankruptcies could follow. This crisis will likely spread to other industries. The auto manufacturing sector supports numerous jobs, local economies, and supply chains. If profits vanish and production capacity goes unused, it could trigger mass layoffs, financial downturns, and ripple effects in industries like raw materials, logistics, and finance, causing a domino effect. The most concerning part is that the high debt and leverage in car companies may combine with real estate defaults, threatening the stability of the entire financial system. What may seem like a temporary export boom could be the precursor to larger scale economic instability.